Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I am your host, Dennis Betholkus, and this is Gotham Season 5, Episode 11. They did what? Yeah. And this is also the first podcast with my this is the old microphone, of course, but what you can't see below it is actually the new power set up there. So hopefully everyone can hear this a little bit better than what it was before. So I might even crank up the gain just a tad. There we go. I can actually hear myself too. So, yeah, I was having little issues with the last power supply and all that kind of stuff. And it was making everything sound much horrible than it should have. Especially with this microphone, because this microphone is supposed to be really good. Yeah, thanks, Stanley Tweedle. I know it sounds a lot better now than what it did. Yeah, it was pretty damn horrible. I know that. So I apologize for that. It only took me 112 podcasts in order to get better sound. So before I get started here, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the episode. If you haven't watched the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch. Hope you're feeling better. I know you're going to see this later on, so there we go. This was a weird episode, just because we know it's near the end. It's the episode before the last episode. Pen Farm Girl says, at least what you were saying was great, even if the quality wasn't. Thank you. Yeah, this is much better. You can hear me in all my glory, I guess you could say. So there we go. So like I was saying, this episode is a little bit weird in the fact that we know it's the next to the last episode, and they were rushing things. You could tell they rushed quite a few things. Some things didn't make any sense whatsoever, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to roll with it. So what happened in episode 10 was the general had given the command for them to basically wipe Gotham off the face of the earth there. So the military is bombing Gotham, and we start off episode 11. So with the refugees all coming into Gotham, from all over Gotham, they're flooding the GCPD. Some are injured, some are not, but they're just getting out of there because the shit's getting bombed out of Gotham at this point. Gordon wants everyone to go get moved down to the bunkers, and then he also wants to find out, find Barbara before Nyssa does, as he says. So in the meantime, Bruce and Selena are standing over an unconscious Alfred, and he's saying it's all his fault, of course, because he sent Alfred out on that mission. And Selena says he knows what he was getting into, so everything's good. Nyssa, in the meantime, we see is holed up at City Hall with Barbara and the baby, and she says she's going to kill Barbara once she destroys Gotham. She wants her to watch Gotham get destroyed, and then she'll kill Barbara. And Barbara offers Nyssa the sub and all the gold that's in the sub, and says, hey, there's a sub out there with gold in it. Take it. Just let me and the baby go. And Nyssa's like, no, I don't think so. She goes, but I think I will take the baby and raise her as an Al Ghul. So, she says that there. The general, in the meantime, gives the order to blow up Gotham, and over the radio to the army, and he's basically telling them to wipe out everything in Gotham. And his next in command says, I'm not going to kill innocent, women and children. And that's when Bane comes in and says, well, you've been relieved of command. And he's sounding a lot like the Tom Hardy Bane. It was kind of funny. And he snaps the guy's neck, and then all the soldiers fall into line and decide to follow Bane, which I thought was kind of a weird one. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to let it roll, whatever. I mean, he was former military, but he doesn't look anything like the Eduardo that was, military before. So sure. Okay. I'll let it go. So we see Penguin is deciding he's out in the dock with Ed, and they're getting ready to get in the sub and take off. And Penguin has a change of heart and says, you know what? I can't leave this city. This city is in my blood. He goes, I'm going to stay and fight. Ed, good luck. Take my dog with you, and I'm out of here. And Ed thinks he's crazy and is basically like, you know what? I'm leaving, and I'm taking all the loot with me. So we see that Penguin ends up, Selena ends up volunteering to go to Sirens look for Barbara because, of course, Jim was going to go and do that, but they need him back at GCPD. And Bruce ends up suiting up and he's going to look for the general because they need to find the general in order to call off the army. And yeah, exactly, Stanley Twill. That's how the military works. You kill the highest ranking officer, and then suddenly you're in charge. That's the way it always works. So Bruce is suiting up. He's going to look for the general, and Lucius gears him up with all the Wayne Tech stuff that he's going to use later on as Batman, of course. Penguin, in the meantime, goes over to Gordon in the GCPD and tells Gordon that he's willing to stand up, and fight for Gotham. And he gives his little rousing speech about how, he can't watch Gotham get razed to the ground and only have these rich people come in and rebuild Gotham and take it over and change the way it was. And he's going to stay and fight. And that's when Bullock comes in and says that the army has busted through the barricades, and with Bane leading them. And they've got about 700 men. And, of course, Penguin asks how many they have. And he goes, about 30. And then we hear 31. And that's when Ed walks in. And, basically Ed says the same thing. He says, I'm going to fight for Gotham as well, kind of thing. And so they go out to go and they gear up with the GCPD. And this is what we saw at the very beginning of the season, with everybody kind of gearing up and suiting up with the weapons and everything and standing up onto the wall of GCPD to face the army. Now we finally have caught up to where we were at the very beginning of the season. And we see Bane and the army down below, and Bane just basically saying, to give up, that they're going to kill them all. And of course, Jim answers that by opening fire on the army. I love how, Harvey actually kind of reminds me, because there's a lot of innocent soldiers down there that are just following orders. And Jim goes, open fire. That's all he says as a response. And they just start, shooting at the soldiers. It's like, all right, cool. Lee comes to. She was knocked out by Nyssa over at Siren. So Selena comes into Sirens, and Lee happens to wake up just as Selena is entering, and fills her in that Barbara has been taken by Nyssa, and also the baby has been taken as well. And we hear explosions happening in the distance, and Lee says, the Narrows. And of course, Selena tells her that all the people that could have left have already left. They've gone to GCPD, and that's where the army is, and Bane as well. And she goes, well, that's where I need to be then, is where the people are. So she decides to go there. Again, a lot of this, doesn't make a lot of sense. It just kind of, it happens. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to let it happen, because I know it's the next to the last episode. They need to wrap shit up. Is what they need to do at this point. So we see Jim and the GCPD fighting Bane and the army, and Bane ends up pulling out a bazooka and blows a hole through the wall. And he tells his men to go in there and find Jim Gordon and Bruce Wayne and bring him to him. Yeah, see, he just needs a little cigar there to go over his respirator. And in the meantime, Jim and Bruce, they decide they need to retreat, right? They need to pull back because things have kind of gotten fucked now at this point. So Lucius tells Gordon that over the radio that Barbara and the baby, basically Lee is called in, and Barbara and the baby have been taken by Nyssa. They're at City Hall along with the general. And, Gordon, of course, says, okay, I'm going to go in. I'm going to sneak in. I know the back way in to get in, and I can get them back, kind of thing. Yeah. So it just, it was kind of a little bit weird. So Penguin ends up catching a face full of grenade, too. There's a grenade that got launched over the wall, and Ed had frozen. Of course, the grenade explodes and kind of damages the Penguin and one of his eyes, the side of his eye and his face kind of get a little bit damaged. So I'm like, okay. And they're going down the stairs, and of course, Penguin's doing a kind of a fine imitation of Bill Paxton. Game over, man! It's game over. And so they're trying to leave at this point. So Bruce decides to use part of Jeremiah's plan to blow up Gotham using the batteries that they had, and he's going to blow up one of the buildings because Jeremiah was trying to create a maze within Gotham itself using the buildings. So he's going to use one of the generators in order to blow up a building and trap the soldiers, or at least stop them for a little bit. And everyone thinks he's kind of crazy, but at the same time, like they don't see any other options at this point. So Jim sneaks into City Hall somehow, gets up to where Barbara is, knocks out a couple of guards. She does too, and he frees her. And then Nissa shows up at the top of the stairs with the baby and the general, and ha ha ha, I found you. And all her men come out of the woodwork and surround Jim and Barbara, and they get captured again. And she, of course, says, "What to do with you, Mr. Gordon?" And of course, she's going to kill him. We know this already at this point. So Bruce goes into Wayne Enterprises to blow it up along with Selina, and he takes the battery out and he plants it on the wall there and has a little, he stops for a minute because he wonders if that's what his parents would have done. And then he realizes, yes, they would have given everything to help out Gotham. And he activates the bomb. And then, of course, they're just standing there. And she goes, well, what do we do now? And he goes, well, what this thing does, it takes in air and ends up building up, ramping up, and then it finally explodes. And it starts turning red and then flashing. She goes, what does that mean? And he goes, oh, we run. And I'm like, dude, when you set the thing, you should have been running then, not just kind of waiting there. And it just, again, it was weird. It was just a weird thing. But again, rolling with it. So the building explodes. Of course, they do a jump, in slow motion kind of thing. We see a shitload of glass happen, flying out. The building falls because he located on the pillar, the support pillar of the building, and the building blocks the soldiers. We see the soldiers kind of running for it, and the building blocks them in. Nissa decides to kill Gordon herself using her hands because why not? She's got enough time to do it. She goes down the stairs, starts beating the shit out of him, and then gets interrupted by the news that the army has been blocked in by the Wayne Enterprises building falling. And as she's trying to give orders, Jim ends up pocketing some weapons and, whatnot. And Anissa tries to beat the shit out of him again, but that's when Jim and Barbara basically fight back. They kill most of the guards, and then Nissa uses the blade that she already killed Raish with and stabs Nissa in the chest as well. Not once, but twice. And she basically says, yeah, the one thing you guys have in common, you really like getting stabbed by this blade. Because Nissa's just spouting off and off about how she's her father's girl. She has his blood running through her, and that's why they can never be defeated, and blah, 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 blah. And of course she gets stabbed. So as she's in pain, of course, she tells the general to activate fail-safe, is what she says. And the general walks down the stairs, pulls out his gun, and shoots himself in the head, so he cannot recall the soldiers at this point. And Nissa, basically says, I've won, ha ha ha, and she runs away. And of course, she leaves Jim and Barbara by themselves. Again, a little bit of mustache twirling on that one. Again, not the finest episode, like I said. It's at the end, they had to wrap shit up, and Robert M. says, I was surprised that the blade did not kill Nissa. Yeah, there was, she got stabbed twice through the chest. Once in the chest, once in the stomach. She should have been dead at this point, but she's her father's girl, so she's got his blood running through her. That's probably the reason why she, as she kept saying. So that's probably the reason why she survived, huh? So Bane ends up finding Bruce and Selina. He pops out of the woodwork, haha. And Bruce tells Selina to run. And she goes, nope, we're doing this together. And they start fighting Bane. And Bane, of course, is going off about how he's going to break them. And he grabs Selina from behind and says, it takes a little bit of pressure. And you go from having a life to not having a life. And then she stabs him up in the chest or up in the throat area. And he lets her go, and Bruce jumps on top of the back of him and plants a little device, and we hear it beeping. And Selina goes, "What was that?" And he says, "Oh, well, it was supposed to be an EMP, but it failed. And really, all it's good for is attracting winged mammals," is what he says. And she goes, "What?" He goes, well, mainly bats. It's like, well, dude, all you had to say was it attracts bats. That's all it does. It just attracts bats. And so we see this swarm of bats come flying in, and they surround they surround Bane. And yeah. Robert M says, I heard Fox granted them 2 extra episodes at the last minute. Really? No, they actually only had the 12 episodes. That was the only thing they had, Stanley Tweedle. That was the only thing I had heard from the beginning of the season. So who knows? Barbara and Jim get the baby back and have a little quiet moment, of course, in the city hall. And, again, he reiterates, oh, with the general dead, we can't stop the army. Okay, we got it, man. Thanks. A slightly fucked up Bane. He's got, cuts all over him and not looking all that well. Some of his stuff is shorting out and all that kind of stuff. Makes it back to the army. So he joins them again, and, they start advancing the GCPD. And in the meantime, we see from inside the GCPD, Gordon has made it back, along with Barbara and the baby, and Lee's there. Everyone's there pretty much. And we find out the army is coming in from all sides at this point. They're surrounded. So Jim says, okay, take all the civilians down into the steam tunnels. There's an entranceway into the subway. Make it past the army, get behind them, and then get the hell out. He goes, we're going to hold them off as long as we can and buy you some time. So, of course, they send everyone down there, and we see Alfred, tells Bruce that he's a fighter for good. He comes to at this point. Lee decides to stay and fight. She sends the people down the subway, of course, and they're like, well, what do we do without you? And she goes, you're going to live. I'm going to stay here and fight, is what she says. So Staley Tweedle says it seems more like they have the number from 24. Yeah, most likely for the episode count. So Jim and the few who stay behind, they're going to face Bane. They just kind of walk up to the soldiers, and Bane says, basically Jim says the fight's over, the war is over with. And Eduardo Bane says, this was never a war. This is a firing squad. And he tells the soldiers to aim. And just before he can say fire, all the people that were sent down the subways have come out and surround them. And Jim basically says to the soldiers, he goes, stand with us. You can drop your arms and stand with us, or whatever. And so they end up turning their guns onto Bane and the few men that are with him. And everyone cheers, and there we go. That's the end of that. So we see an injured Nissa making her way to the sub. And it's kind of funny. We hear dogs barking in the distance. It's really weird. And she turns to look, and that it's a horrible cut, horrible edit. It looks like she was looking at something, and then it cuts away. And we don't see what happened on that. More on that in a little bit here. So we find out the army on the mainland has been informed what happened, with the general and how he'd been mind controlled and everything. And now they're there to help rebuild Gotham and feed the people, take care of the people, all that kind of stuff. We find out that Barbara has named the baby Barbara Lee Gordon. So we know this is Batgirl. And of course, she's going to have interesting stories to be told at bedtime at this point. Bruce ends up talking to Selena, and he, of course, still blames himself for everything that happened to the city. He says, these are all people that were coming for me. I'm the reason why this is happening, and I need to leave. And Selena's like, well, you don't need to leave. I'll always be here with you. And he's like, huh. And she's like, what? She goes, that's exactly what my parents said too. And it's like, wow, dude, way to bring that vibe down quite a bit by saying, oh yeah, and you're gonna die too. Thanks a lot. Yeah, man. What a downer Bruce is. I swear. Very brooding at this point. So Penguin and Ed are pissed off that Nissa stole their sub. So we find out she actually did steal their sub and their loot. And they said, and then they didn't get anything in return. The city didn't thank them or anything like that. And of course, now they're just criminals again, but low level criminals. And he says, no, you know what? You know what I felt when I was standing shoulder to shoulder with those people? Absolutely nothing. He goes, they need to bow down before me. He goes, they were going to bow down before the Riddler, and they're not going to get up until I tell them to. And he says, I'm going to become the exceptional criminal at this point. I'm going to be the criminal they all fear. And of course, Oswald says that he's going to do the same thing. And they decide to make a pact about this. And should we shake hands on it? Is what they say. And they're like, no. And Oswald says, no, we're brothers. Let's hug. And Ed's like, yeah, let's hug. And we see behind his back, he flips open a little switchblade and they come together and they hug. And we see that Oswald also has a blade in his hand and they're kind of hovering over each other's back with the blade, and they don't do it. And Oswald, as they're separating, goes, and here's to life renewed. Kind of a weird little thing. So with the city getting rebuilt and the new mayor appoints Jim Gordon as the city's commissioner. And there we have it. He's now Police Commissioner Gordon at this point. Bruce decides that he's going to leave Gotham because his life has become too public in Gotham at this point. Everyone knows that he's got those skills. And it's kind of funny. Gordon notices something weird as he's walking out with Lee out of the party there in City Hall. And it was just for a second. He kind of turned and looked, and it was something that he looked at. And then it was kind of a weird aside. I don't know exactly. There's a couple different weird things that you might be right. They might have had a couple more episodes that they were supposed to do. And because they truncated this episode down, there was some stuff that was left in that shouldn't have been there because it was going to play to a longer term episode count. I don't know. It was kind of a weird thing. So Selena ends up going to GCPD to look for Bruce, and she goes to some random cop, and the cop says, oh, he left you a note. And she reads the note, gets a pained look on her face, and takes off out of the building. Bruce is saying goodbye to Alfred at the airport, and Alfred asks him when he's going to be back. He says, I don't know. And Alfred, of course, has been left in charge of rebuilding Wayne Manor, Wayne Enterprises, and basically everything the Wayne related. And Alfred says, you're the son I never had, hugs him. And he couldn't be more proud. That was the other thing. And Bruce gets on board the plane and takes off just as Selena gets there in time to watch the plane take off. And we see a brooding Bruce Wayne look over Gotham as he's flying away. And that's where we leave off on the episode. And we have one more episode left. That's next Thursday. It's going to flash forward 10 years. And we're going to get Jeremiah Joker. And then we're also going to have Bruce Wayne as Batman. Yeah, that was a douchey move by Bruce. I agree, Stanley Tweedle. It was very douchey of him. He was acting like a dick to her the entire time, though. So, I don't know, man. There's a lot of questionable shit in this episode. A lot of questionable shit. What else do we have here? Stanley Tweedle says that was super stupid. A firefight at 30 feet distance with rocket launchers. Yeah, I really don't understand. Like I said, you could tell this was really, really kind of sped up a bit in order to get through this. And I'm almost sure, like you guys are saying, there was probably more episodes initially that they had planned for, and they had to cut it back. So that could be also the reason why we had that, 4-week hiatus. Maybe they had 4 more episodes they were supposed to do. Sounds about right. And it's kind of funny. I almost didn't get to see this episode on time because my local channel decided to preempt it until 11 o'clock to put on some weird sports, like no-name sports team. I don't even know if it was like AAA or what it was at that point. And I just ended up going to fox.com and watching it because otherwise I would have been very late. And quite frankly, I was not going to stay up that late to do that. Robert M says, I thought they should have just had the hypnotized general giving commands instead of Bane. Yeah, that really would have been the easier way of doing it. But then, what would Bane have done? You know, and then Bane ends up getting captured and put in prison. So it was, I don't know, man. It, like I said, it was kind of a weird episode. I'm hoping that the last episode uh, just goes the full balls out insanity that they've been doing most of the season, and gives us what we wanted to see on TV all along, a live action Batman. Because quite frankly, that's really what we need on well, who knows if DC Universe is going to be around in a year or two anyway. Once Warner Media comes about. So there's a thing that's going on right now with DC Universe. DC Universe is actually a pretty good idea, and it's being carried out fairly okay at the moment. The only problem is that Warner Brothers owns DC. They want to start their own streaming service called Warner Media. Warner Media. Well, you already have DC Universe out there, so that's going to be competing, and it's also all the stuff that Warner Brothers already owns. So, what does Warner Brothers want to do? Do they want to get rid of DC Universe that they've already spent money on anyway? That's who knows, Stanley Tweedle. They could be killing the DC Universe right now with Swamp Thing, for example. They've cut they were supposed to have 13 episodes and they cut it down to 10. They all of a sudden just kind of stopped production the other day to rewrite the 10th episode so that it can be the final episode of the season. And supposedly there's creative differences that are happening, the ever popular creative differences, that kind of thing. So your guess is as good as mine on that one. I'm gonna talk about this a little bit more on Saturday as well, but yeah, there's some really weird shit that's going on right now. It's all because of Warner Media. So and AT&T is the one that owns Warner Brothers right now too. So there you go. I don't know what's going to happen with all of this stuff. So, but back to Gotham. Stanley Trail says, "Who planned all that? Didn't they know for a long time that Warner Brothers wanted to stream?" No, they just decided that since Disney's doing a streaming service, they want to do one now. And it's like, well, you already had DC Universe, which was in the works for like a year, and then all of a sudden you want to do, Warner Media is what it's called. It doesn't make any sense, quite honestly. Yeah, exactly. Genius is correct. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of fallout with this one. We'll see how it goes. I've got some theories which I'll share on Saturday, and usually my theories are pretty close to almost dead on that. So we'll see how it goes. So anyway, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. Also hit the like button too. And if you don't like what you see, you can hit the dislike button. I just asked if you hit the dislike button, go down in the comment section and tell me why. Give me some constructive criticism. Not that you suck, you got a funny looking face or whatever like that. I hear that all the time. Also, if you want to see when I'm going to be on live again, you can hit the little bell. If you've already hit the bell, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can also go into the bell settings and either get all the notifications of when I'm on or only select notifications, and you get a 50-50 chance of that actually working and sending you a notification when I'm on live next. So there we go. You can also find my schedule, up on suspendedfanimation.com. That is my website. I change it out once a week, so I only go week by week because I never know where I'm going to be at that point in time. I also have that same schedule up on my Facebook page, Suspended Fanimation, so you can take a look on Facebook as well if you still are involved in that. I'm on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram as well. Also on my website, you can find the email address. You can email me there as well. It's suspendedfanimation@gmail.com if you have any questions or all whatnot. If you're still on the fence about joining, there's going to be a video that pops up in this side. It's going to take one video out of my video library from using the algorithm of everything that you've watched and pluck the very best video for you and put it there for you to watch. If you like what you see, you're going to hit the subscribe button. That's going to be up in this area. So there we go. Robert M says, if they bundle HBO, then Warner Media could work. Well, then what happens with HBO Go? So this is not going to work all that well. There's quite a few things that Warner Media owns, that AT&T also owns, that you can't start. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to start cannibalizing your own stuff that's already in place. So Warner Media is a bad idea. But like I said, I'll get into it on Saturday. So tomorrow is going to be Doom Patrol. Yeah, speaking of DC Universe, Doom Patrol is going to be awesome. Saturday, of course, is the aforementioned Saturday morning blast off. That is where I take the genre news of the week and talk about it, and any other genre stuff that you guys want to talk about as well. Sunday is Game of Thrones. Monday is The Tick Season 2 on Amazon. Tuesday I have off, and Wednesday is Happy. So there we go. And once Gotham ends, Thursday nights is going to fall over to iZombie, because iZombie starts right after Gotham ends, coincidentally enough, which is kind of nice. Stanley Twill says, only tangentially related to Gotham, is there a rule that if you play the Joker and a Jedi, only one can be live action? That's true. That's a good question, Stanley, because Mark Hamill has played the Joker in the animated series, but a Jedi in real life or in live action. And Monahan is playing the Joker live action, but he's playing a Jedi in the upcoming Jedi game. Exactly. I know which one you're talking about. I'm looking forward to that game, actually. I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, holy shit, yeah, and it comes out near my birthday, so that's an awesome Fallen Order. Thank you, yes. I'm looking forward to that one as well. It's going to be a good birthday gift for me. So, with that said, yeah, anything looks better than episode 9. Yeah, we'll talk about that on Saturday. We really will. Yeah. So, with that said, take a look at the videos up here. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for joining me in the chat. Robert M, Stanley Tweedle. I know Penn Farm Girl was in here as well. And I think that's it. That's all that we're in here this late night for you guys on the East Coast. So, exactly. We'll talk about that on SBO. Again, take a look at the videos. Hit the subscribe button. I will see you tomorrow for Doom Patrol. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may end up having to kill a colonel in order to take over an army that's incinerating Gotham. Good night, everybody.